So as we move towards the end of the semester, right, we are approaching the final project that you are going to be required for urban ecology and to close out. So the final thing that you'll be doing is now taking the incorporation of all of the different chapters, all of the different topics and themes that you've been moving through in the discussion board, and putting those together in sort of a grander idea. And you're going to design your own urban space. You're going to design your own urban neighborhood. And what you're going to do again is to demonstrate your understanding of the urban environment with including some of these following features. And again, I'm going to walk through that in just a second. So the very first thing I really want to kind of focus in on is you're going to need to justify this location. You're going to need to tell me why you're picking this location, why based on your own personal experience. So again, you in the last couple of your discussion boards have been going out and interacting with the environment, taking a look around, taking photos of spaces that are in and around your urban environment or out in your rural environment that may be on the fringes of the transition, right, between kind of rural to urban as we think about sort of towns and smaller cities. So again, the very first thing you're going to need to incorporate is the justification of your locational design based on personal experience. Again, I'm putting DFW because that's where we're located, but as long as I can see there's a personal correlation to where it is, and again, I do have reference to personal things that you've obviously referenced in prior discussion boards, so those two things should add up. Then you're going to design and understand and integrate, again, these ecological, social, and economic intersections that we've been moving through in class. So I put in here, be creative here. If you could have it all, if you could design a place or a space where your friends and family could all live together, or just your friends, or the couple of people that you have in your life that you really could handle or tolerate, right? What would that look like? And so, touch, get in touch with the child creativity part of you when you used to build and design and, the way we think about kids putting Legos together. What does this look like? Right? What does this feel like? What would you want that would make you happy to have access to? Then, once you've determined that, and maybe there's a place, maybe there's a favorite park, maybe and again, that's if there's already existing things there, that doesn't matter. It's that there's an existing space that you love that you can speak to. And so again, you got to justify the location. I will even allow for if you can justify a specific area outside of DFW, meaning maybe there's a place that you visited one time and you're like, wow, I would actually really love to design that here. Okay, great. But then you're going to have to do the research specifically within that area to be able to design your urban space, your urban neighborhood. So what are you going to do? Again, you're designing sort of this eco-friendly design, and you're going to do two things. You're going to give me sort of a write-up, right? And then you're going to put together a little bit of a slideshow as per usual, and you're going to tell me about why you chose this. So let's walk through it. What do you need to do? The first part is you're going to submit the 3-page double-spaced documentation that touches upon the required sections, right? And again, as per usual, I've got this laid out for you. I'm gonna say it once, I'll say it again. It's very, very, very straightforwardly easy for me to tell when you just upload this into AI and you just say, complete this project for me. It's very, very, very easy to know that. So please just write out one sentence of what you would want for just the first pass of this, right? Then go find the research that supports it. Really, it should be all yours. This should be perfectly all about you based upon something that we talked about in this course, something that you researched on, something that you did a discussion board on that piqued your interest, right? Maybe it was talking about flood mitigation. Maybe it was talking about ecosystem services. Maybe it was walks in nature and how nature affects mental health. That's all great. Whatever speaks to you that you were kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool to look into this a little bit more, or a creative thing that you designed. That should be the basis and the foundation for, again, what your justification is, what is speaking to you. And you're going to need to actually, find some research to help support that. What is a relevant challenge? What is something that this particular area of DFW or of place on Earth is experiencing around what you want to research? So again, if it's floodplain mitigation or flood mitigation, if it's water management, or again, there's not enough green spaces in this particular area, research that particular area, asking, right, and finding the research around what is being done. Because I promise you, whatever you're interested in, someone is probably already looking into those things because you're in a course that talks about urban ecology, that is speaking to people who are going on to become urban ecologists, urban designers, right? Master planners of cities, right? These are real jobs as you research in your AI project. Then you're going to move into, again, the major key topics that kind of encompass the big lumps of what we moved through in this course. So first and foremost, designing of green spaces and biodiversity. The biggest thing I want to point out here, you absolutely need to include in the justification, at least, again, if you're focusing on something with inside of Texas, a Texas native species of plant and animal, flora and fauna. I'm on genus and species, the Latin name. I'm looking for that correct. I'm looking for the research on this. I'm looking for you to utilize a description of how this will benefit something you are creating in your eco-friendly neighborhood, right? So again, what is your justification? What is the elemental design that you're going to research and say something needs to be done about this? There isn't enough of. Here's the support that says there isn't enough of this in this particular area. Now, here is how I'm integrating nature and green spaces into this to help support creating a neighborhood. How are you going to design your housing and renewable energy? How are you going to look into these things? Again, by research support. What are the types of materials? What's the justification for those materials? How are you going to mitigate water management? How are you going to design the transportation and mobility in and around your space? And again, there are really cool TED Talks out there. There are videos that are out there. There are websites that talk about urban space design, right? That you can probably go in and play with and modify and design your own, right? Use something other than AI, guys, because you're getting locked into non-creativity. And that's going to really hurt you, not just with inside of this project. It's really going to hurt you in life. We're getting too locked into this thing as being the end all be all machine. You still have a whole web of internet that can probably do a better search for you and get you to better answers than, again, the everything machine that's not really good at everything. And again, I hope now that AI project really does make you realize that there's a lot of ambiguity of what you're going to get as a response from AI. I'm not saying it's not a tool, but we're over relying on it. Everybody is. I'm not just saying it's you guys. Everybody is. This is a chance to show creativity. What is ways that you're going to address impacts of economic sustainability? How are are you going to have something inside of the neighborhood that everybody in the neighborhood must contribute to? Or is there something that you're thinking about that can help generate money? Are you going to invest in solar? Are you going to invest in renewables, right? How are you going to keep your neighborhood with the lights and the water and the trash pickup and all of that stuff? How is that going to be maintained? Research, research, research. And again, how are you actually researching? How are you using the research to support what you're saying? That is what I'm very much going to be looking at. How are you addressing these things? I'm literally hand-holding you and telling you the things you should be considering. You need the data to support it. And yes, I look at every resource and every citation and I see what is the justification of why you're using that. Because again, if it's not real, if it doesn't actually lead to the impact that you're trying to create by the assignment, your whole house of cards of what you're building your narrative on collapses. So let's just be mindful of that. Go out. You might be shocked at some of the really cool things you can come up with in design, right? So that's first. Then you're going to, for the last 50 points, which is a total of 100, you're going to, you guessed it, put together a slide presentation. And notice I've started to just make it very straightforward. If I get giant paragraphs of text, the best I'm giving you is 50% on this portion. Full stop. At this point, you know how to put the presentation together. If you're going to be lazy and not complete it, the best I'm giving you is 50%. 25 points out of 50. If you can't be bothered to put this together in a professional format, I'm not going to be bothered to grade it. So again, please, let's show me the creativity. This is 100 points. If you're not happy with the grade, this is a really beautiful way to bring that grade up. Okay? So now you're just taking and incorporating basically your paper and you're modifying it and you're putting it into, right, your slide deck. And then you're going to reflect on this. You're going to tell me a little bit about what did you really enjoy about this? What did you find really hard to make the final decision of what was going to be your justification? You know, what would you, if you had all the money in the world, what would you really have put in? What is feedback that you would give a real city planner based on your experience of this? What are the types of questions you would want to know? So I've put the submission checklist, everything that you need to have. You'll see that the due dates are posted in accordance with the syllabus. Again, this is the last thing aside from the, I think it's a total of 3 or 4 discussion boards left that you have. I gave you a break on one, so some of them are a little bit doubled up, but one is just a reflection. So we're coming to the end. My suggestion would be most of you have next week off. Get this done. Be done with it. Put it away so that you can simply just be able to move forward and focus on other things. Okay? So if you have any questions, as always, please reach out to me. Happy to set up some time and we can walk through it together and collectively to make sure you get that 100 minutes. All right. Have a good one.